They were offered Netflix for $50 million. They laughed. Blockbuster. In the year 2000, two men flew to Dallas, Texas, and sat across the table from the CEO of the most dominant video rental company on earth. They offered to sell their small, unprofitable startup for $50 million. The CEO laughed them out of the room. 10 years later, his company was bankrupt. Their startup was worth over $28 billion. This is the story of Blockbuster, and the phone call that could have changed everything. Blockbuster wasn't just a video rental chain. At its peak, it was one of the most recognizable brands in America. Nearly 9,000 stores worldwide, over 84,000 employees, and a business model so dominant that going to Blockbuster was simply what people did on a Friday night. It generated close to $6 billion in annual revenue at its height. And in the year 2000, its executives had the chance to buy the company that would eventually replace it entirely for the price of a rounding error on their balance sheet. They said no. To understand why that decision made sense to them at the time, you have to understand how much power Blockbuster actually had. Founded in 1985, Blockbuster grew at a pace that felt unstoppable. By the mid-1990s, it had become the default destination for home entertainment in the United States. An empire built on physical shelves, physical inventory, and a business model with one particularly profitable detail: late fees. Late fees weren't a minor annoyance tacked onto the business. Analysts estimated that late fees accounted for a significant share of Blockbuster's annual profit. Some years, close to $1 billion in revenue came from customers simply returning movies a day or two late. The entire real estate footprint, the staffing model, the inventory system, all of it was built around a customer walking into a physical store, browsing physical shelves, and driving back a few days later. This wasn't a company that needed to worry about competition. Regional video rental chains had already been crushed by Blockbuster's scale. Its logo was on strip malls in nearly every town in America. When executives thought about risk, they thought about competitors with more stores. Not about a mail-order DVD service run out of a small office in California, which is exactly the environment two entrepreneurs walked into with an idea Blockbuster's own executives considered a joke. Netflix was founded in 1997 by Reed Hastings and Mark Randolph, initially as a DVD by mail rental service. No stores, no late fees, just a red envelope in your mailbox. For years, it was a niche service. Profitable in a small way, but nowhere near a threat to an empire of nearly 9,000 physical locations. By the year 2000, Netflix was still losing money and looking for a way to survive the dot-com crash that was wiping out internet startups around it. According to accounts later confirmed by multiple people involved, Netflix co-founder Mark Randolph and CEO Reed Hastings flew to Blockbuster's headquarters in Dallas and proposed a partnership. Blockbuster would acquire Netflix for $50 million, and Netflix would essentially become Blockbuster's online brand. Blockbuster's leadership, according to those same accounts, treated the pitch as barely worth the meeting. Why would the dominant leader in video rental need to buy a small mail-order service that was, at the time, still unprofitable? From inside Blockbuster's boardroom, the math looked simple. They weren't losing customers, revenue was strong, and late fees alone were generating enormous profit every single year. The deal never happened. But here's what makes this story different from a simple case of bad luck. Blockbuster wasn't blind to Netflix for the next decade. It had multiple chances to change course, and it kept choosing not to. In 2004, facing early pressure from Netflix's growing subscription model, Blockbuster launched its own online rental and no late fee program, spending heavily to compete. For a moment, it looked like the giant might actually respond in time. But internally, the company was pulled in two directions. Executives who wanted to invest aggressively in the online future, and a board more focused on defending the profitable late fee model that still funded most of the business. In 2005, Blockbuster's CEO, John Antioco, pushed to eliminate late fees entirely and go all in on competing with Netflix online. The move cost the company hundreds of millions of dollars in lost late fee revenue in a single year. And activist investors, unhappy with the short-term financial hit, pressured the board. Antioco was eventually pushed out. His successor scaled back the one more detail worth knowing before you go. Blockbuster, the company, is gone. But the brand never actually died. It just changed hands completely, more than once. When Dish Network bought Blockbuster's remaining assets back in 2011, they didn't just want the stores. They wanted the name. Over the following decade, Dish quietly relaunched the Blockbuster brand more than once, including as a streaming app that borrowed the name to compete in the exact market that had destroyed the original company. Most of these relaunches came and went without much notice. Proof that a name alone, without the business model behind it, isn't enough to bring a company back from the dead. Then there's the store in Bend, Oregon, the last Blockbuster on Earth. After every other location closed, this single store didn't just survive. It became something stranger and, in its own way, more successful than most of the chain's final years. The manager who took it over turned it into a genuine cultural landmark. Tourists fly in from other countries just to take a photo in front of the sign. The store now rents itself out on Airbnb for overnight stays among the old VHS shelves, regularly booked, often months in advance. It was the subject of its own documentary series and countless news segments, watched by millions of people who never once rented a movie there when it was still a normal, unremarkable Blockbuster. In a strange way, Blockbuster finally found a business model that works in the streaming era. Nostalgia. Not efficiency, not convenience, not price. The exact opposite of everything Netflix outcompeted it on. People don't visit that last store because it's a better way to watch a movie. They visit because it no longer exists anywhere else, and there's something people are drawn to in standing inside a piece of the past that everyone assumed was already gone. It's worth asking why this keeps happening. Why so many collapsed retail giants become more emotionally powerful in memory than they ever were in daily use. The same pattern shows up again and again. Toys R Us, Radio Shack, and other collapsed American retail brands have all seen strange afterlives as nostalgia products, pop-up stores, or licensing deals, long after the original business model that built them stopped working. The lesson inside the lesson is this: a brand can outlive the business that created it, but only as a symbol. It stops being a company and becomes a memory people are willing to pay to visit, which is a very different and far smaller kind of business than the one that built nearly 9,000 stores in the first place. Blockbuster spent 30 years building an empire on convenience. It's spending its afterlife being kept alive by the opposite of convenience, by people going out of their way, on purpose, just to remember what convenience used to look like before it disappeared.